We're back with another Fitter's Choice video today comparing two of the best utility irons. We're going to talk to Tyler about why these two in particular are the best utility irons of 2025. Hey golfers, I'm Drew Mahowald, the Second Swing Golf here in the tour van with Tyler Fitzel, Master Club Fitter. It's a Fitter's Choice comparison and probably a category we haven't done a lot on. This is utility irons. We've got the two sort of winners or two bests from the Fitter's Choice results this year. Srixon ZXiU and the Ping iCrossover. So that one's, I love that the Ping iCrossover got some really good feedback from the fitters because it's in my bag still as of this moment. I was toying with the idea of a 7-wood, but this thing keeps following its way back into my bag. So, but in terms of Fitter's Choice, Tyler, I'll just have you kind of reiterate what that is for the viewers that are watching, and then what kind of feedback you guys are gathering. Obviously, you guys, thousands and thousands of fittings, millions of swings that you guys are looking at as a whole, right? So, how do you guys kind of come up with what is Fitter's Choice, and then also what did you see from these in particular that ended up having them in the top?
Fitter's Choice was kind of born out of this idea. We want to have a discussion amongst fitters about what we're seeing. Talk about the ideas like, hey, you just had a customer, you went through this fitting, you're talking about this club, this worked well, maybe this didn't work as well for that customer. It's really getting to the choices that we're making and the customers are making through the testing that we do. Fitter's Choice is more of a conversation amongst what all of our fitters are doing on a day-by-day basis to find, well, the best product. Hey, you say to someone, I really need something that spins less. Got it. This is kind of the category for that. Something that spins more. That's the whole idea to this. And when we start talking a little bit about the driving iron category, it's been around for a long time. The driving iron is not something new, but the driving iron has really been redefined in the last, say, maybe about 5 years. Maybe the idea that we've got a lot more in terms of getting launch better, we got spin better, we've got more ball speed on miss hits. We see that in the bags of even the best players on the tour level. So we want to be able to try to find some of those products and get them into your hands if that works for you.
So outside of these two models, the iCrossover ZXiU utility, there's a Titleist U505, Mizuno Pro Fly High, and the Cobra King Tech. We're also rated really well by the fitters. So maybe some brands in there that aren't typically, especially when it comes to maybe some metals or sort of the prominent brands, Callaway or TaylorMade in that list. But I think it shows that this is more of a unique category where, you don't have 4 or 5 options of utility irons from each brand. You just kind of have the one typically. So there's kind of a little bit of, picking through things a little bit more, sifting through what golfers are looking for with this club, because not everybody is even, actually probably a small percentage of golfers that come in for a fitting actually need one of these in their bag. So we're talking to probably a rather small contingent of the golfers out there, but nonetheless, it's a club that can be very useful. So we wanted to dive into that as well. Now, so today for the testing, we're just going to compare the two here, iCrossover and ZXi as the top 2 choices in the category. Talking about the shaft here, because I know there's a couple different models, but I know they do a pretty similar purpose here.
Yeah, one of the things we did here is he's got the club speed, so I want to make sure that we have the stability with it. So I grabbed the extra stiff. This is by Mitsubishi Chemical. It's called the MMT. This specific model is a 90X, and it's designed for the utility. That means it's really pretty stout down in the tip section because you're still using this with turf contact. That turf contact maybe needs a little bit more impact, and so that impact needs a little bit more stability. The same thing is true as if we're talking about Ping. Ping has their own brand, their lineup. This is the Tour Chrome. They actually have a couple of different models that you can use with this to be adjustable with it. But again, I grabbed the extra stiff because one of the things that I wanted was some support and stability for you there too.
Yeah, and that is actually the model, and this is the same thing I play in my bag, so I'll be used to that in that regard. But I have not hit the ZXi utility yet, so I'm very curious to see how this goes. And if I hit it good enough, maybe it's going to go as a replacement in my bag.
Yeah, this really fits well. I've fitted a lot of them, and by a lot of them, I mean probably a couple dozen. And
which is, for this category, for a category that's not, played by a ton of golfers, that's actually a big number, I would say.
It is. What it does is it kind of provides a little bit more of that forgiveness in a long iron. It's maybe a little bit more shot trajectory or controlling kind of the trajectory that you see with it. Also, if it's a little shorter than maybe a fairway would, you maybe have a little bit more control in terms of kind of trying to be more precise with it. I put in a King Tech in my bag, so I went with a Cobra. And one of the things I found right away is there's kind of like this hot ball speed to it, so it travels. But also there's an ease or a forgiveness about it that I'm not going to get out of a regular iron.
Yeah, they're definitely built a little bit bigger than most, even like a game improvement size iron. There's a little bit more there, hollow body design on most of these models. So I think, I mean, again, the Srixon's irons are always doing really well. They did really well in the Fitter's Choice as well, and just a standard iron category. So I'm sure this will do really well in testing.
Yeah.
That was not a good hit. Now that was smoked.
Yeah, that was hit really well. So where do you find yourself using something like this? You said you have it in the bag.
It's off the tee 90% of the time.
Okay.
I mean, I will confidently go into par fives with it, but it is still primarily an off the tee club. And especially at the course I play at, it's a short course where there's a lot of placement tee shots, and I just feel so confident with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not too big, but I have there's a sense of too where if I need to with this one, I can flight it and kind of give a more controlled shot to it.
Yeah.
So it's been good.
I know where you play, and one of the things that I remember distinctly playing a few tournaments at that course was that I had a 3-iron that I actually bent down and loft a bit.
Yeah.
And found myself, using that 3-iron, call it /2-iron off the tee, to a high degree of success.
Yeah.
So that was an actual blade 3-iron many years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. But a club like this would be so useful.
Yeah.
And I could see myself, that's one of the reasons I even got one in the bag, is I replaced a hybrid with one because of its multifunction.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I can use this off the fairway if I need to do something. I can certainly use it off a tee.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I look at with something like this is that who is this for? This club or this club type is for anyone that maybe plays at a course where they need this club, say 3, 4, 5 holes.
Yeah.
And
that's exactly the case for me. I mean, I could rattle off maybe even 6 or 7 holes on that course where basically the idea is these are par 4s that are 380, 390 to like 410, 420 yards, and I'm just trying to hit the ball to the 150 mark in the fairway.
Yeah, and that's what you look at like something like this, and this is just off the turf. Be it this is AstroTurf, but you've got 240 carry and 260 total.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people that's a driver for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, and if that's my shot every time, I'm very pleased with it, It's another one a little bit low on the face. But see, if that's a miss, what do you do? I'm 15 yards shorter than my last one.
That was really nice and solid, too.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the shot shape I see on the course, too. It's the same thing. There's another pretty significant miss hit. We'll see what happens with that one. Okay.
Okay.
I like that. I've had a few kind of bad swings here, actually. The ball's straight. I mean, that first one I almost didn't even make contact.
Yeah.
But look at the smash factors on these, and to see where they're all fine.
Yeah, I would say that the one that the second shot was the purest in terms of its contact to it. We saw the smash factor for that. It also carried the farthest. It went the farthest.
Yep.
You also look at something like this is not that far off. We're talking about maybe 8 yards here and about 10 yards in total. So the other thing that I look at with this too is when you hit it really super solid, you've got a landing angle at 40 degrees. And even these in the high 30s to that. So this can become a multi-tool, right?
Yeah.
This is something that could get used on a par 5
Yeah.
or a long par 3, again, where, if you start talking about these 200 to 220 yard par 3s that sometimes we have to play once in a while, like this is where you could be very effective.
Well, and a skilled player that might fit into this, which there are a lot of, I would say lower handicap players probably playing something like this. could go into a par 5, and if maybe they have a stock draw shot like I do, but they can hit a big high power cut and really increase that landing angle, make it steeper, make it stop quicker. So there's that function to it, where you probably have that capability more with this type of club than you do with a hybrid or something that there's more shot shaping ability with this is what I'm kind of getting at here.
Yeah,
so.
And I'll hear people in a fitting, customer would say, well, I use my 3-iron and my 4-iron to kind of punch out from trees. The philosophy is like, you can do whatever you want to do. Your bag is your bag and your tools are your tools. I look at it and I say, listen, these things do cost a little bit more money than just a regular iron. So I don't think I would put this in just to chip out from. But it's multifunction. This can be a low shot, it could be a tee shot, it could be a fairway shot, it could be a high shot. It's like all of them are kind of at play.
So first thing I noticed with the ZXi, much bigger. I see some of this mass, this kind of large sole. I see it behind the top line, and I know that's, for a lot of people, that's, I don't want to say turn off, but it's kind of a, they don't like to see that. And that is a nice thing with the iCrossover is you don't see, and it could be part of it being the color that it is, but you don't see anything behind the top line. Whereas here you can just see the bulky sole there. But it's clean otherwise. I mean, it's pure. It's a little bit, it's probably similar blade length actually to the iCrossover. Nothing out of the ordinary there. But with that said, I expect some high ball speeds here and potentially even maybe a little bit of launch just with all that mass down low.
Right. Same as the ping that we were just trying near the iCrossover, this 3.
Yeah.
So we got about 20 degrees of loft.
Oh yeah, that thing's launched way in the air. Oh, it's a slight
Healy?
off the there you go. Healy.
It's my favorite
I will
band.
say though.
It's my favorite band, Healy Dan. Or is it Steely
I'm not familiar.
Dan? Steely Dan?
You and Kevin bring this stuff up and I just like don't have the reference. Let me see if I can turn this thing around here. Oh, that's even more heel.
So several of the clubs that I fitted, like this Srixon as an example for some stronger swingers, some younger guys that are really looking to capitalize on forgiveness and some distance. We ended up having to go with an extra stiff shaft like this, but we'd even tip it an inch to make that tip section even stronger.
Yeah.
That even helps kind of maybe adjust a little bit lower ball flight to it. But they've got carry distances in the 240 and 50 range with this right off the deck.
Yeah.
And when you have that ability to just basically tee it up, it just becomes a really controllable driver.
Well, I know like maybe the most famous utility iron out there right now is Minwoo Lee. He's playing, that's kind of his go-to shot is this little stinger with his utility iron, and he carries a 260 or 270 or whatever, just can hit any shot shape he wants with it. So it's a weapon for these guys that have swing speed. All right, let's hit one solid maybe. That'd be a good idea. Well, it's hit solid, but it couldn't be more left. Yeah, I shut the face on that one for sure. That's a good one. Should be good. There we go.
Yeah.
Took a few swings, but I figured out how to hit one kind of straight. I do feel like we're going to look at this, and I know there's a couple of those last shots where they were kind of low left, and that might skew things, but I feel like this thing is launching much higher.
Yeah, it's launching higher, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, let's go take a look at that as a, if we go to the extremes and take the left and the right out of it, we're looking at very similar numbers to this. To say, club speed's very similar, ball speed's almost identical, smash factor, launch, spins a little bit up. It's actually not necessarily that much different between the two.
It could have been just those first couple were maybe out to the right, and that kind of that happens.
But there's a little bit less carry distance here, but not by a lot. We're talking about a few yards, literally 2 to 3 yards on either side of this. So when we're looking at what you've got in your hand, again, you're swinging it very consistently like the other one. You're getting a very similar result. So when I look at something like this and you come in and you've already got the Ping iCrossover in your bag, to me that's a comfort thing.
Yeah, it is.
And that doesn't mean that the Srixons, shouldn't be given the chance to it. It might mean that we need to do something different. Like for that, maybe we needed a 2 instead of the 3.
Yeah.
Or as you talk about like the Ping where you have adjustability, is maybe we need to change that lie angle. That's also something we can do with the Srixon. Many of these, because they're very iron-like, they have adjustability. I could change up the loft on that if I needed, or the lie angle on that club if I needed.
Yeah.
It's a full forging, right? They've got their main frame that they do the forging on. Then they put that face on. That creates some hot ball speeds on something like that. And then you talk about the turf interaction. One of the things that we don't do a lot of is we don't look at the bottom a lot.
Right.
And if you look at the bottom, you have basically kind of the rudder on a ship is trying to steer it and guide it. So you've got leading edge, then you've got trailing edge relief that comes out of it.
Yep.
So it's the same thing with the Ping. Is it's like their curvature that they've got on it is designed for turf interaction.
Yeah. I think that's the point with this. We're not out on grass right now, but I think that's something with Srixon iron. I have ZXi7 irons in the bag now as of this year, so I'm used to at least kind of how the sole shape is obviously much bigger sole, but I'm getting used to how that shape feels because I'm trying to get steeper with my irons. Yeah. Because that'll help with that. But I think I like how this actually test played out. I think because I hit probably with each club probably 1 or 2 that were like really solid dead center strikes, and then I hit probably a couple that were low on the face, which is probably my miss. And we actually kind of see how it plays out there.
It does.
The iCrossover was very straight for me on a variety of swings where I was hitting it off the center, low on the face, and the ball stayed in the fairway. Yeah. Just a little bit more left to right dispersion with the ZXi, but I think, again, I think there's a little bit. I still think even the numbers indicate it to a smaller degree. Maybe a little bit more launch and spin with this guy, just because of the build of it being just much bigger on the sole here. And with that said, maybe the center of gravity maybe a touch lower to get that ball in the air, maybe a little bit more spin.
And one of the things is like if we wanted to look at this from a different perspective. So if we take ourselves to some of the different backgrounds we've got. So, take for instance, we go out to St. Andrews, or I was looking at it more from looking at these test facilities. So here's the test facility that Titleist has. And we've been there, we know this. Titleist also makes the 505. They make a couple of different. They have a couple of different models.
The T200 is
the T200 utility build, and then they have a 505. Again, very successful models. I've seen those in customers' hands and have worked really well. But you go out here and go, all right. So you're in the fairway, all but maybe one that just leaks into the bunker. So if we're talking about a tee shot at your local course right there, you got all but maybe one shot in the fairway. Yeah. What we were talking about earlier is we had this up here. The first one that we were looking at was actually a golf course. This was PGA National, hole number 3 at PGA National. And one of the reasons we picked this was because if you look at this overhead view to it, you've got some water on the side. Again, you're in the left rough on one. You've got maybe the right rough on a couple, and one in the bunker. Yeah. But again, you're in the fairway, you're in play, and you're also out at about 225 yard carry and about 240 yards. Yep. And with your best being up around 250 towards 60 yards. This is exactly why we want a club like this. It's going to give us a little bit more consistency. Yep. The PGA Tour average right now for fairways hit with the driver is 50%. It's about 50% average. The PGA Tour.
It seems like that seems low, but then if you look at the numbers, the best players are in the 60s, right? But there's a lot of guys that are diving down into the 40s and below that even on these tougher courses.
And if you look at the PGA Tour average for the percentage of fairways hit that are not a driver, that means it could be driving irons and utilities and hybrids and 3-woods and whatever it is. That's still 50%. It's like the reality is that about half the time you're going to find a fairway no matter what you've got. So what you have to do is you really have to, who are these clubs types for? They're for the people that have a particular reason.
Yep.
You've got to squeeze it in on hole number 1 because you got 2 big bunkers and you can't hit the driver and there's water down below, and you start thinking about the different places that you would use a club like this. And that's one of the reasons why we in the fitting bay look at these as options.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been, I think, to allude to what I said right at the beginning with the iCrossover, is I just play at a course most often. I mean, I'll play around the state of Minnesota and whatnot, but I play at a course most often that I need that 40-ish yard shot, 3, 4, 5 times off the tee in the round. Right. And so having that club is just super nice. I haven't found anything as reliable yet. That's why I like where in this test I have of the 4, up there with the iCrossover. They're all right in the middle. So, yeah, I mean, again, ZXi utility, I can tell is hot, launches really well.
Feels really good.
It feels really good.
Yeah.
If you're a Srixon iron player, that was one thing I was curious about, is having now with the ZXi 7s in the bag.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, maybe is this going to blend well? It's something worth a try for sure.
Well, and one of the things that we talk about is like blending the set. So what do? Is like talk about a lot of the irons these days, they start to get progressive. So you get into the 5, the 4, the 3, the 2 possibility. A lot of the different iron models on the market for every one of the companies, like Mizuno does a great job with this. They have the 243, which is a blended set. The 4, the 5, the 4, and they make I don't think they make a 3. They make a 3 iron in that too. But it gets bigger. It's getting bigger on purpose. The other models you talk about, Titleist does that. Yeah. Every company does it, in Callaway and TaylorMade. And when I'm looking at it, I'm not putting a 2, a 3, and a 4 of these in your bag.
Yeah.
I'm putting 1.
It's 1. Yep.
And that really takes a big chunk of what we're talking about at the top end of the bag. It leaves us maybe some wedges on the bottom. But everything's a blend of it.
Yep.
If this is a one-use tool, if it just happens to be, a couple of holes at your golf club every single time you play, let's get that in the bag. And
and then if it can be used, if you need it for a long approach shot to a par 5 or something, then perfect. So again, those are the use cases for this club, or these clubs. In terms of performance, I think to your point, we talked about the different maps and stuff, but like for me, the ball, I didn't hit the ball the best, but the ball didn't really stray offline too far either.
No, right.
And it was in play, which is basically the goal if you're going to use it off the tee. It's get the ball in play.
Yep.
Second shot's the more important shot anyway on that hole. So, so yeah, this is good. ZXi utility, Ping iCrossover, 2 really good options in that category. Of course, there's others, the U505, the Cobra King Tech, the Mizuno Pro Fly High. There's options out there, but nonetheless, if you feel like this is something you need in your bag, go get fit. Look at all the options, see what works best for you.
Yeah.
Tyler, thank you for joining today for another Fitter's Choice comparison.
Absolutely. Stay razor sharp.